What's up guys, this is Seville, and today I'm going to talk about the brand new Hasbro Power Rangers Lightning Collection Mighty Morphin White Ranger. If you can give me just a few more seconds, I'll have this figure out of its package. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below, and if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Just to give you a bit of an idea of the difference between the Hasbro Lightning Collection and the Bandai Legacy series, I want to go ahead and put them both on the screen at the same time. However, I'm going to save the full comparison for later on in the video, so be sure to stick around for that. And for those of you who like to have it on your hunt, here's the barcode on the bottom of the package. Plus, I have a direct link to Amazon in the description below. However, as of this recording, Amazon has the line street dated for April 30th or available for order on May 1st. So until that date passes, it'll just be a pre-order link. With all that said, let's get on to the review. First, let's focus purely on the Lightning Collection version. It certainly has a good level of detail that I would consider to be on par with Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series. You can definitely see a mixture of those styles along with some new ideas in this figure. And it does maintain that quality level all the way around the figure. The sculpts of the helmet, shield, and other accents are all detailed very well, with clearly defined lines and layers all throughout. Unfortunately though, I do have to note that there is a little bit of paint spill and blotches on the helmet's design, mostly around the visor and tiger eye area. But some of those spots are really only noticeable when you're zoomed in real close like this. Another thing that I do have to point out, at least on mine, is that the neck peg is kind of loose, so the helmet keeps wanting to fall forward, making it difficult to maintain some poses. His shield is done really nicely, with the symbol sculpted in very well, as well as all the lines and other details in the armor pattern. The gold band around his bicep is a sculpted detail, but maybe not in the way you'd think. It kind of looks like it'd be two separate pieces divided between above the band and below the band, because the thickness of the arm definitely changes below the band, which maybe wouldn't have been quite so bad if they had painted the under part gold as well. The wrist cuffs kind of do the same thing, but maybe not quite to the same degree as the upper arm. I should also note that the shield itself is a softer, more malleable part on top of the main sculpt. So when you raise his arms up, the shield will bend just a little bit in order to not hinder the articulation. Like the shield, the belt is a softer, more malleable piece that sits on top of the main sculpt. But it doesn't quite move around as much as the shield does. But the holster part is made sturdy enough to hold Saba in place without any real problems. Moving on down to the legs, they are totally solid with no further soft parts, with sculpting details similar to the arms showing the wrinkles and such, as well as the detailed cuffs at the top of the boots. Unfortunately, once again, the black and gold does have some paint slop where it's not quite inside the lines where it needs to be. Overall though, it's still a pretty good looking figure, and maybe the small errors on this one will be something that gets fixed further into the production. Considering that this particular figure is part of the very first shipment of the very first wave, there was bound to be some flaws in it. Moving on to the accessories, the White Ranger does include a pair of alternate closed fist hands, but I'm only going to use it on the left side, that way I can have him hold Saba on the right side. Saba is painted really well, and the metallic parts are really shiny. It's kind of making it hard for my camera to pick up all the little details, but trust me, they're there. And they didn't go cheap on it because both sides are fully painted. My only real complaint for it is that the entire face of Saba should be white, not silver. Overall though, most of the sculpting and paint details of Saba are done really well. And along with Saba comes this translucent blue spark effect. It's really spiky all the way around and kind of solid in the middle, all except for the little slot where it fits over Saba's blade. It does have a decent amount of weight to it though, which can cause some balance issues, as well as some unwanted rotation in the wrist. And last but not least, we have the Jason David Frank as Tommy Oliver head sculpt. I think the sculpt itself looks great, but maybe some of the paint could have been a little better. Mostly because, at least on mine, there's some kind of weird dark spots that maybe shouldn't have been there, like around the mouth and a little under the eyes. I do like that he has the ponytail, which is accurate to the era, and hopefully, if they make the rest of the Tommy Oliver figures, they'll update the hairstyles with each one to be appropriate to the time period. So now, let's take a look at all of his articulation. The neck peg does have a good range of up and down movement, but as I said earlier, it is kind of loose, so it keeps wanting to look down. Of course, it does also have full rotation side to side. The shoulders do have butterfly joints to give you that front to back motion, plus they do spin all the way around, as well as move outward. The biceps also have full rotation, and the double jointed elbows fold really well. The wrist also has full rotation, as well as being on a hinge for up and down movement. The torso actually has two separate joints, the top one being a ball joint that is underneath the shield and kind of hard to see if you don't lift it up some. But even just by itself, it does offer a wide range of 360 movement. Then when coupled with the ab crunch, it can lean really far back and maybe even a little further forward. The legs can do a side split pretty well and are also pretty good at kicking forward. The ball joint in the hip does offer a little bit of rotation by itself, but of course there's full rotation at the thigh cut. Much like the elbows, the double jointed knees also fold really well, and there is full rotation at the top of the boot. The ankles do have some pretty good up and down movement, as well as a full pivot. I do feel the need to point out that a lot of the joints lock in particular positions, like they aren't just freely moving, so it can make balancing a little difficult because one piece wants to lock here, the next piece wants to lock there, making it difficult to keep them where you really want them. So now, to the final piece of this video, comparing Hasbro's Lightning collection to Bandai's Legacy series. As you can now see, the Legacy series does have a significantly larger body frame than the Lightning collection. Legacy was always boasted as a 6.5-inch series, while Lightning is a flat 6-inch. At first, I did think that Hasbro made it a little too small, but when you put a ruler next to it, it is very close to that 6-inch mark, with the Legacy Ranger just a little bit over the 6.5 mark. So while the size difference is a little disappointing, it's not really wrong. Beyond the size difference, I do think that the Lightning collection has the better overall look, with the colors looking more accurate and the main body looking more natural. A common complaint I always saw was that the Legacy figures always looked too muscular, too roided up. They shouldn't have had their abs showing through the torso. It shouldn't look like it's a comic book drawing, and Hasbro definitely eliminates that problem. Now that you've seen the Lightning collection next to the Legacy series, maybe some of you have never actually owned the Legacy series, so you're still not sure exactly how big it is compared to figures you do own. Therefore, I'm going to show a few figures from each line that I own, that way you can see where it measures up in between them all. Starting with more Hasbro lines, such as the Star Wars Black series, you can see that he's a little taller than Rey, but shorter than Darth Vader. Similarly, on the Marvel Legends side, he's taller than Black Widow, but shorter than Iron Man. And compare him to Mattel's WWE Elite figures, he's actually shorter than both the male and female characters. That same statement holds true for the DC Multiverse line as well. In fact, every other line I'll compare him to will be larger than the Lightning collection. NECA's Predator figures look gigantic next to him. The DC Multiverse Superman Rebirth figure is also pretty tall in comparison, but the animated Lois is a little closer. And finally, the NECA Ninja Turtles from the 1990 movie are also just a little bit taller than the White Ranger. So with all that said, it's time to run the Lightning Collection White Ranger through my guidelines for a complete and fair review. The Legacy Collection is comprised of brand new sculpts that are highly detailed and fairly accurate. It does have more than 20 points of articulation, but there are some quality control issues with loose joints and bad paint spots. Plus, the way some of those joints work can make balancing a little complicated. I'd say the Lightning Collection is in scale with other Hasbro lines, but not much else. It does include a few good accessories, and the roughly $20 price point does seem fair. While the Lightning Collection has stumbled out of the gate a little bit here in the beginning, I do believe that it will be widely available in the coming months. Leading this figure to an 8 out of 10 stars, meaning it is excellent and a must-own for all fans. So even with the flaws on this figure, I do think that Hasbro is moving in the right direction with this brand, and I look forward to seeing what they can do in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video,
get over here!
And subscribe to Civilian Collectibles.